everybody can use their voice to help this community out. It's going to affect all of us in some way, in some form. It's coming. If we're blessed enough to live long enough, we will be seniors, and we want people to advocate for us with integrity and perseverance. And we want to age in confidence.
Today, I am speaking with Fitima, founder and executive director of the MedAid Foundation. Her advocacy began after seeing her father's, Ronald Harris Sr.'s, serious health complications and challenges and the gaps that can exist in senior and long-term care. Now she is seeking public and legislative support for a North Carolina bill requesting $250,000 to strengthen services for seniors and medically vulnerable families. Hey, Fitima, how are you?
Doing good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And I also see that we have a gentleman here. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the public.
Yes, ma'am. I am Hugh Hudson, attorney Hugh Hudson. I am sitting next to Ms. Miller today because I am joining our advocacy. I'm an attorney working with the family on some legal matters concerning, which I'm sure we're going to discuss today, concerning the passing of our father.
Yes, advocacy is very important. And so let's go ahead and begin with your father's story. Mrs. Fitima Miller, are you ready? Very touching subject.
It is. Well, let's go.
So Fitima, take us back to April 17, 2025. What happened that day, and why does it remain so significant to you?
So on April 17th, 2025, I remember getting a call about 9 o'clock that morning. I was in my house in High Point, and my brother said he passed. I said, well, do not touch him. Don't move him. Don't do anything to him till I get there. And so I got there maybe about an hour later, and I walked to my dad's room, and he was on the bed, deceased, obviously. His teeth were showing, and he just did not look like my dad. I mean, he just looked like he had just been through hell back and forth. And so I sat there with him. I held his hand. I kissed his forehead. They asked me, was it okay for them to come in and wrap him up in the sheet? I said, yes, you can wrap him up in the sheet. I watched all of that. I watched him put him on a gurney. I followed him all the way outside until they put him in the back of the truck. And that right there was probably the hardest moment of my life because I knew I had to separate from him.
Talking about a daughter's love for her father, and you were very close with your dad,
yes.
Fitima, saying that he was a reason for like showing you leadership, showing you what that bond is for a father and daughter. And so with your father having leukemia, he actually went into remission. He experienced cardiac arrest. He later lost functionality to his limbs. What did your family witness as his health and care needs changed?
So I think the first thing is to understand the magnitude of my dad's physical strength. He was a not military police officer, but he was a police officer. He was also a firefighter. He also did martial arts for 30 years. So he was in top shape. I mean, this man could run 10 miles, do 500 push-ups, 600 sit-ups in the same day. He did that every day, even in his 60s. And do a straddle on 2 chairs, do a split. He could.
Some people, you got to be a gymnast in order to achieve something like that.
Yes, so I want everyone to understand the type of health my dad was in before he went down. When he came to my house, November, on Thanksgiving Day, 2023, I noticed that he was breathing erratically a little bit. And I said, Dad, we need to go take you in. He said, well, let me enjoy Thanksgiving. I said, well, I don't think you're going to have time to enjoy Thanksgiving. I said, because Dad, I don't think you're going to make it. He said, you think so? I said, yeah, Dad, we need to go. So we went, we rushed, go to facility, emergency room. They admit him. He's in afibrillation. He has pneumonia in his lungs, and he is, later we know, like maybe 4 hours later, he codes for 6 minutes.
And for those of you who do not know what code is, Fitima, explain what coding is in the medical room.
So when he code, that means that he lost oxygen to his brain for 6 minutes. So most people who lose oxygen to their brain for 6 minutes don't come back to the other side.
Because at that point, you're dead.
You're pronounced dead. But he came back. After 6 minutes, they kept working on him. So the 7th minute, he came back. And I say all that to say because with that physical health, with the understanding of where he wanted to be in his life, it took a major toll on my dad because he was very independent. He did everything. So to go from being independent to dependent on people feeding you, clothing you, bathing you, washing your clothes, brushing your teeth, giving you a sip of water, that was devastating. And it was devastating for him because he prided himself on his lifestyle and been able to move around and functionality.
Being able to be as active as he was and still doing it every day without a problem. And then, like you said, it could be like a depressive thing naturally for him to be solely independent, to having everyone being able to take care of his need, from feeding to changing to all of those things. So your father actually had developed stage 3 compressor ulcers, which is commonly known as bed sores. What did that reveal to you in the gaps in senior and long-term care? Because you guys didn't understand the significance behind the ulcers until you guys reached the hospital.
Correct. And so we got a phone call from the facility maybe 2 weeks before he went into intensive care. Said it was a small bed sore the size of a dime. And they told me they were going to put something with a T on it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. You know, whatever we need to do. They said it's looking fine. It looks great. And so I thought nothing else about it until maybe 2 weeks later, we were called into the ICU. And when we were called in the ICU, the nurses and the doctors on staff at this particular hospital was like, you guys need to report. This is not normal. And so I'm like, well, what do you mean it's not normal? And they're like, no, like this is bad. And so there was just no way to fathom or comprehend how bad it was until you saw it. And at that moment, I knew that something had to change, just with not just with my dad, but just the system, not itself.
And stage 3 ulcers, for our audience, just to kind of get a view of what that is, bed ulcers that could go all the way almost into the bone. So
Correct.
You talk about all that pain that he was enduring while not being able to really advocate for himself because he lost functionality of all his limbs.
Correct.
And so moving on from that story, even with your knowledge in healthcare and the experience that your family, your intermediate family has within healthcare, did you struggle to receive answers and have accountability from those who were taking care of him in appropriate care? Was that still a struggle for you and your family?
Yeah, surprisingly it was. And the thing about it, Dad had the best support system, family. He had a son in med school. My brother was in med school at Duke at the time. My mom is a chief of nurse staff at a university. I mean, his sister is here with him every day. Brothers, aunts, cousins, nieces, nephews, grandchildren. We were all very active for Army. And so to see my dad still die, all the support that he had, it lets me know that there is a gap. As far as accountability, no one has said they've taken accountability, but that is what we're fighting for, to make sure that they understand that what they did to my dad was horrible. It was horrific.
If I may jump in on this point, there will be accountability. We have not taken necessary step yet to file a lawsuit, so we're going to kind of refrain from diving too deeply as far as like what may have transpired. But I haven't met with the family, haven't discussed this case in length. I've reviewed the medical records and everything that's involved. I could say with certainty that at some point there will be accountability, but I just want to say I'm so proud of Fitina for taking the step to ensure that these type of situations don't happen to other families.
Right.
As she stated, her family is well equipped. There is a medical doctor in the family who's very close, by the way, and very involved as well.
A couple of them, actually.
Exactly, and they're very involved, and something very to this extent could occur. Just imagine if there is someone with not as much support.
Right.
So we're taking the necessary step. I'm definitely appreciate all the things that you've done to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone, because we all are gonna, at some point we're gonna get older. We may end up in a situation where we need to go into a facility.
That's right.
100%. And speaking of that, because again, you're well equipped, you have family who are highly educated, even within the medical space. What do you believe happens to those families who don't have that medical professional support or even experienced advocates helping them navigate the system?
They lose all the time. I don't know how they lose, but I can imagine passing early, sores, been overlooked, not fed, not bathed, not clothed, not cared for, not loved on, not spoken life into, doctor's appointments missed, because like I said, my dad had a strong support system, and even he fell through the cracks and still passed away. So yeah, I definitely think that if they don't have the right support system, their fate is doomed pretty much.
At what point did you decide that your father's experience had become something larger than your own family's personal story?
2 days before my father died, April 15th, I visited him, and he said, Fatima, I'm ready to go home.
And by home, that meant?
By home, to me, I knew that it meant he was ready to leave the earth. I'm not sure what he thought, but in my spirit, the way he said it to me, he said, pack up all my things. I got to get out of here. I got to go home. It's time to go home. I'm done with this place. And I said, okay, Dad. And I said, and he said, is there anything you want me to do? He said, yes. He said, I want you to make sure you fight, because how can a facility not feed a man for 24 hours and treat me the way that they did? And he said, because I know that you're my daughter, he said, I want you to fight until there's no fight left. He said, do not let them get away with how they treated me. And that started my advocacy for my dad, and why I reached out to Hudson Law Group to come in and support me.
So speaking of advocacy, Mrs. Fitima Miller, when it comes to the specific changes that you're fighting for your father, for other seniors, so they do not experience the same thing that he endured, because as Mr. Harris mentioned, he wasn't changed for 24 hours and the dignity behind that. What change do you want to see for our seniors here in the state of North Carolina?
And that's the key word, dignity. I think at the end of my dad's life, he lost all dignity. And that was embarrassing. And he even said it was embarrassing. So I want to make sure that people understand that seniors matter. They're important. Their voices matter. Their stories matter. Even at a rest home, if they're not able to contribute to society, they've already done that. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to make sure the biggest key for me is just making sure that the seniors have their dignity. Because my dad definitely lost his, and he said he lost his, being dependent on everybody to do things for him. And he thought people would be nicer and kinder and of honor and integrity. And we saw the opposite.
And I had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Harris at one of the homes, and he, in his own words, I have a recording of it, he was able to recollect and certainly discuss some of the mistreatment that he said, you know, according to him, that he has endured, like not being changed, like you've mentioned, not being fed on time, and just being ignored, right? These are things that he's told me, and these are things that I have a recording in his voice. Even in, you know, I think this was about 2 weeks before he passed, he was able to advocate for himself, he was able to speak up, he was able to articulate what he felt was the misjustice and the mistreatment.
Correct.
In multiple homes. So it's not somebody that, for lack of a better term, went down easily. He's a fighter, truly a fighter, because it's somebody I've met. I've seen how of a determined soul that he was.
And Mr. Hudson, I think you in that brought up a beautiful point of him still being able to still speak for himself. We have a lot of seniors who may be crippled, or as far as they not being able to verbally speak. You know, Mr. Harris, he didn't have functionality to his limbs, but thank God he still had his voice. So we're still able to advocate for him, and like he made sure he fought for his rights and fought for what was right.
He did. And that's what's unfortunate, because not only that, he had family members that visited him almost every day.
I had a strong support system, and still, like you said, fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
And so I just remember going to my dad where we placed signs around his room that says, "I cannot feed or drink. Please give me water every hour." And I just remember going in there, and sometimes my dad would have food all over his shirt because they would just bring the tray in there and leave it there and walk out. And I said, "Dad, did you eat?" He said, "No, they just dropped that off and walked out." Well, and then if he tries, he's flinging it because he's lost functionality of his limbs. And so, or he needs someone to come give him a sip of water. He couldn't even take a sip of water. So these were signs that were put around the room. These were things that they knew. These were things that were in his record. These were things we did case management studies that they knew this information. So to see Dad, not eat because you just didn't want to do it, or you just like, oh, he's just playing. No, I saw a lot with my own eyes in the nursing home, and how they talked to my dad. They belittled my dad. They were mean at sometimes. Not all of them, but some were.
Some people that you already know that his time may be winding down.
Yeah.
So not even to have enough respect, human to human, to treat someone as you would want someone to treat your father, your grandfather, your uncle who raised you, who grew up with, who really brought you along this earth. So, and that's one major thing that you're advocating for. And let's move on to you explaining the need for the MedAid Foundation. So for someone who is learning about the MedAid Foundation, Mrs. Fitima Miller, for the first time, what is this mission, and what direct services would it provide for our seniors and caregivers here in the state of North Carolina?
So MedAid Foundation is a nonprofit that I put in place while my dad was still alive. I saw him struggling, and it's to provide resources, hygiene, and medical supplies to vulnerable, at-risk communities and seniors. And inside MedAid, I created a program for seniors, and that's where the $250,000 will go towards. And in that $250,000, we plan to serve 1,500 individuals annually, distribute 5,000 hygiene and medical supply kits, host 4 community health and wellness events annually, support 500 seniors annually with essential care items, and then reduce hygiene-related illnesses among participating seniors by an estimated 25% over the next 24 months.
Thank you so much for explaining that. And how would you utilize the $250 request that you are asking for the state of North Carolina? And so what measurable outcomes, what impact would be measurable with the MedAid Foundation and the senior program that you are wanting to fund?
Well, we hopefully we're able to improve quality of life for seniors and underserved families in the Durham, Winston-Salem, and Charlotte area. Also expand access to preventative health care resources, reduce avoidable emergency room visits and healthcare costs. My dad went a lot of times to ICU and he shouldn't have been there. Mm-hmm. It was avoidable. Funding will be managed responsibly because it's coming from the state. They have an auditing system, and then we also have an auditing system as a nonprofit that we have to walk through as well. So between the state and us being accountable, we'll make sure funds are allocated properly.
And you mentioned, Mrs. Fitima Miller, that the $250 would be kind of like a drop in the bucket because you would need realistically $2 million to really fund your vision for your program. And just very quickly, with you mentioning those counties, why are those cities so important to you to serve?
Well,
Durham, Winston-Salem.
Well, Durham, Guilford County, and Mecklenburg County, they are still considered rural areas. 70% of them are people that make less than $56,000 a year. That's considered rural. And so, to me, in order to live in America, you need to be making $150,000. And so those individuals, they're on your Medicaid, they're on food stamps, your EBT, they're needing resources. And so it's very important that I focus on the areas that need resource the most versus the areas that have everything they need. So
correct. And thank you for that. What is the long-term plan for sustaining this work for our senior care after the funding is utilized? Like, how are you looking to sustain this health care for our seniors?
I'm looking for joint venture partnerships and sponsors, more board members, volunteers. We need about 45 to 100 that we could span across between Durham, Winston-Salem, and Charlotte. So I would need 100 of them. They would go in, sit with clients, talk with them, almost like a pen pal, making sure that if a family member can't come, they can send a volunteer in and they can help feed them, whatever we are allowed to do within the scope of the state standards that we're allowed to do as volunteers. Like for the $2 million, that just allows me to just broaden the program.
Within the state of North Carolina.
Within the state of North Carolina.
And then so very quickly, Fitima, how would people volunteer? We're going to go ahead and speak that into existence that is coming. How would they actually volunteer for the MedAid Foundation and going out to be those pen pals that's supportive for our seniors here in the state of North Carolina?
Well, you can create a sponsorship page on MedAidFoundation.org. We also have donation buttons. You can also contact your state rep in your county and ask them about Bill 1051 and how you can advocate on that side. Go down to Raleigh and knock on doors with me to introduce yourself to the state rep, senators, and governor when I'm down there. And let's see what else. Yeah, just get the word out.
Really getting involved. Yeah. Really putting that footwork in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people take footwork, emails, calling, door knocking, old school.
I think a lot of people my age, especially, they don't realize how much work goes into the legislation process. We're familiar with the 3 branches, but we're not familiar with how much work really is involved with these lawmakers. So that question ultimately extends beyond the foundation itself and into the hands of lawmakers to better understand how legislators evaluate proposals like this. The broader need for senior care incentives across North Carolina, we actually spoke to Representative Kanika Brown, and here's what she has to say. My name is DajaStar. Britt, I have joining me today founder and executive director of MedAid Foundation, Mrs. Fitima Miller, and the North Carolina District 71 Representative Kanika Brown. Today, we're discussing the North Carolina House Bill 1051, legislation introduced to support senior care, improve healthcare access, and strengthen medically vulnerable populations across our state here in North Carolina. Representative Brown and Mrs. Miller, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you ladies?
Great. How are you, beautiful?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. This important matter of passing the House bill and letting the people know how they could get involved, how they could advocate, and how they could support this 100% and share the communities you represent in the North Carolina General Assembly.
Yes, State Representative Kanika Brown, District 71, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Come and visit us. We are a historical little city. We love people. We love to have you.
Yes, again, as I mentioned, always love my Winston-Salem State University, my powerhouse. Every piece of legislation begins with identifying a need, and I like to learn more about what inspired this bill. So when you first learned about the circumstances with Mrs. Fitima Miller and her father, what inspired you to actually take part in this House Bill 1051?
Well, Miss Fitima Miller, she's an amazing woman. She has compassion, she's dedicated, and she believes in helping the people. And she helped her father so much, just loved that man so much. And to hear about the tragedy that this man went through in a nursing home facility, that's a problem. And this should not have happened. And again, we hear about these stories all the time, and it's time for change.
It's time for change. And when you talk about accessing healthcare and accessing needs for our seniors, that's where the MedAid Foundation comes into play, because you guys are actually asking for an incentive of $250,000 if and when passed into the bill.
I'll let Ms. Fitima Miller discuss that.
Thank you. So the $250,000 for MedAid project outcomes, we hope to serve 1,500 individuals annually, distribute 5,000 hygiene and medical supply kits, support at least 500 seniors annually with essential care items, host 4 community health and wellness events, and reduce hygiene-related illnesses among participating seniors by 25% over the next 2 years.
And when you talk about giving those care aids out, you're talking about alleviating the nurses, alleviating our caregivers across the state of North Carolina, and just the quality of senior cares, because it affects every corner of our state here in North Carolina. So when you talk about, I'm a millennial, Representative Brown, when you talk about getting people my age and seniors as well, and people in the mid-age and people who are just now beginning to vote at the age of 18, how are they able to get involved? What resources can we share and let them know about?
Yes, first of all, I tell people, reach out to your elected officials in your city and your county, because they have funding there. And a lot of people might say, hey, Reverend, I didn't even know that we had resources here. Yes, we do. The city has funding, the county has funding, and the state has funding. Those are your tax dollars. You need to be reaching out to them to find out what programs that you can apply for if you have a nonprofit. Or you might say, if I don't have a nonprofit, I have a for-profit. Still reach out to them and see what resources they have available that they can connect you with. It's all about connection. It's all about who you know. Not so much of what you know. It's going to be who you know.
For those who are watching and want to stay informed about House Bill 1051 and the legislative process, how they can get involved, how they could vote, and how they could support the MedAid Foundation in their initiative to receive the $250,000 support to receive these aids, what would you like for our North Carolina residents to know about staying informed and engaged with the legislative process on issues such as this?
Yeah, so first of all, I tell everybody this. Your tax dollar pays every elected official's salary. We work for you. You call us, you email us, you let us know what your concerns are. If you have a bill, like I told Mrs. Fitima Miller, come to Raleigh, advocate for your bill. Get before the elected official on the House side and the Senate side so they can put a face with the name. You don't know who you're going to come across that could try to help you push this bill through. You know, I want to thank organizations and our students that come to the General Assembly to advocate for their bill. They come, they talk, they're passionate about their bill, and we need more people to come to advocate. And I tell people that all the time. Just don't send a bill you want us to pass through. I think that's great. But on the other part, I need for you to also come to Raleigh. Come for a day.
Knock on doors.
Yeah, knock on doors, split it up. We have groups that come all the time.
That's what we did.
Yeah. How did that work for you all?
It was great. We had 250 packages to give out, and we had a team of 3.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And this is what it takes. This is what it takes. Again, we work for you. Your tax dollar pays every elected official salary. Don't ever forget that. I tell people you should not just see us when it's voting time. No. If you have not been in the community, if you have not, not showing up, only when it's oppressed there, that's a problem. And that's something, some elected officials that we have to work on. Because I hear that a lot. Rep. Brown, they don't come with the cameras are here. And that's the problem. And those are things that we need to change. We need to have an open dialogue with our constituents because we work for them.
Really having a community effort, going back in the day where, having those fish fries and really being able to shake hands with the community and have people come out and support the major things that are going to do better for the North Carolina residents all around, from our nurses to our caregivers. And Fitima and I were speaking not too long ago about, the caregivers' perspective. It is so mentally tasking for caregivers, and then to see your loved one not being properly taken care of. And it's something that is rampant now. As you mentioned, we have a senior who's been missing for going on 3-4 months, and having a memorial, a service, and maybe not even a body, just not even knowing where that loved one is. And that we all have to, walk in that conveyor belt and all have to leave here, but we want to leave here gracefully and knowing that we're being properly taken care of. So the House Bill 1051 is definitely a start to that.
Yes, absolutely.
And so thank you, Representative Brown, for your leadership. Thank you for taking time to speak with me today and sharing your perspective on the House Bill 1051. And just how can people follow you? How can people really put their bid in, make their voices known to support this House Bill 1051?
Yeah, so you can reach out. Visit our website, General Assembly, put in Kanika Brown name, you will see it there. Social media, I am on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can reach me there as well and message me. I'm friendly. I believe in working with the people. That is my job.
Show up for the people. Always.
And that is my job. I work for the people. So yeah, just reach out to my office, and I believe you have my contact information. So
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
more than welcome to share that with the people. And I tell people also, if you have a bill that you would like to get pushed, reach out to your state representative, reach out to your senator. Also, if you have issues in your city, you have your local, your county, and your federal level, your state level. Make sure you reach out to us. Local level matters when it's time for voting. Local matters, and people usually just vote for during this presidential time. That is, everybody votes presidential, but when it comes to the local elections, they skip out on that, and that needs to change. That needs to change.
I think it's in the process of changing because people really want to see that change, and they know you have to show up. So with you being a House representative and you saying like the people gotta come, the people like sending us the bill and not really having that action behind it. That's why I know Mrs. Fitima Miller been down there to Raleigh to make sure she advocates for this bill for our seniors and our nurses, our caregivers. It's an all around bill, and that's what I really love about it. And so Representative Brown, you do have a pamphlet that pretty much shows the process of how a bill becomes a bill. I'm going to have you talk through it a little bit, but I'm going to show our viewers exactly what it is. And so the first step on making a bill versus really how to get it in-house, on the floor and passed and make it a law.
All right, so we'll talk about how do I work with legislative draft and integrate a bill. First, you have to have ideas for the bill. Number 2, you have to request a bill draft. Number 3, a draft is assigned. Number 4, details you provide. Number 5, we research your request. Number 6, we write a bill draft. Number 7, you review the draft. Number 8, prepare a draft for introduction. And number 9, introduction of the bill. And then you have at the bottom part, if you ever change your mind about drafting requests, please let us know so we can adjust accordingly. So it is a process. Now, so sometimes, yeah.
As someone who looks from the outside in and kind of giving our viewers and people who are not familiar with the bill process, how long does it take to actually get a bill inducted and passed and placed? Like on average?
Sometimes it could take less than 6 months. Sometimes a year, sometimes 2, 3, 4 years. It just depends. It happens. It happens. Like right now, her bill is on the table now. But guess what? Nobody's there to hear it. Why? Because we're out of session. Yeah, it's had its first reading, but we're out of session right now. So when we come back in session, hopefully somebody will pick it up and we can move forward with that. And that's another thing people have to realize too. A lot of times when we're out of session, nobody's looking at it, because we're not there. When we have vetoes, we'll come back in for those special vetoes, make those changes, do what we need to do. Once we're done, we're back out that door, going back home. Right now, we just finished up with short session. We will come back like at the end of the month of July, if I'm not mistaken, probably do a couple of bills. And then the Speaker of the House, he'll dismiss us and he'll let us know when we come back in for session again. That'll be long-term session. And I tell people, a short-term session, we're not there long at all. A couple of months, 4, 5, 6 months, and we're done. We might do 2 or 3 bills, in a day, we're done. Now, if a long session comes in, that's a whole nother beast. We're there all day. We might be there 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, deciding how you live. And that's why I tell people it's important that you know who's working for you. Do your homework. Just don't vote because somebody telling you to vote. Do your homework. Research this person. Are they community related? Do they work well with the people? Are they people of the world? Let me check out their character. And these are the things that we need to be looking at, not just telling people just to.
And so we're back with Fitima Miller and Hugh Hudson after speaking with Representative Kanika Brown for our interview. And so with that, why is public support especially important right now?
Well, public support is very important because at the local level, these lawmakers decide how we live. And so I only know about the presidential election, and that's very important, but your local legislation and your local elections, city, county, and state are very important.
Giving our audience a clear step on how they could support you fully, what exactly should North Carolina residents do? What should they say when contacting the state representative in support of this bill, House Bill 1051?
Well, I would like everybody to get their phones out and record their story. Send your story in, flood them at the state, at the Senate level. Send it to the governor. Also knock on doors at the General Assembly. Let your face be known. Let your story be heard. Also, I would like for you to advocate. You know, whether you want to start your own nonprofit and put boots on the ground, outreach, community outreach, volunteer at these locations, to be able to volunteer at nursing homes to see what we see if you don't have a loved one that's elderly right now. But elderly affects everybody, so reaching out to your senators, your state reps, reaching out to Josh Stein, your governor, calling, emailing, knocking on doors, and also letting them know your personal story. You may know someone who went through a situation like my dad, very similar, and his story or their story needs to be told as well. So.
And Kanika mentioned to us, Representative Kanika Brown mentioned to us how a bill actually becomes law. And so making sure you reach out to your Senate, the House, both sides of the aisle, as you mentioned, and why it should be considered. So how can caregivers, healthcare professionals, how can churches, businesses, community organizations become involved in your mission for a true heavy hitter impact?
I would say two things: volunteering, but also creating a bill that forces these institutions to have enough staff. I can't do it by myself, but churches and businesses that have a big back and a name could really use your support to say, hey guys, there shouldn't be one nurse to 20 patients.
Well, it's impossible.
You know, it's impossible. They're underworked and they're understaffed. So that's another thing that needs to be taken care of. So making sure that these facilities, if you're going to take the people into your facility, that you have the proper care and amount the right people to go in there and take care of them. That would be my only two things I would say why I would need everybody's support. Push this bill, push a bill, not necessarily the MedAid Foundation bill, but push a bill that requires nursing homes, skilled nurse facilities, long-term care facilities, adequate help, and a pay that's appropriate for them to stay, and so they can do a great job. So
100%, all around. We don't want you not only burnt out, but can't afford to make it to work. Correct. To get burnt out.
So I would like to say to the North Carolina House General Assembly that by passing this proposal for the senior program for $250,000, it's a drop in the bucket, but we're heading in the right direction. What I really want is law to be passed that seniors are taken care of, that seniors don't have to give all of their stipend money away to these nursing homes. They're not left with $7. My dad was left with $7 at the end of the month when they took his retirement from him, or his Social Security from him, or his disability from him. Whatever they were taking, they asked for everything. He didn't have enough to keep his phone bill on, buy socks, clothes, shoes, peanuts, whatever he wanted that would make his day enjoyable in the facility. He could not get that. And so I would tell you guys to reconsider low-income facilities, treating them like they're low income, because there should not be a reason why a $30,000 a month facility gets better treatment than a $10,000 a month facility. So I would like to see that change. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you're poor or rich, it doesn't matter. Everyone deserves respect and be treated fairly, well, and also with quality. And those are some of the things that I saw lacking. So I would say, again, make sure that we focus on at the state level, making sure these facilities have enough staff, they're not overworked, they're not burnt out, and that you guys also make sure that as seniors, as they age out, leave them with more of their money so they can do more things. It's very hard on the caregiver. The caregiver, if I have two parents in a nursing home and that's $14 a month, $14 a month is not a lot for them to take care of their essential toiletries and items. So I can communicate with them because they definitely need a cell phone. So that's what I would say to the state, what I would want.
Ronald Harris Sr., he was a public servant. He served our community for North Carolina. He's put in the community. He was an amazing father. Again, he was someone who was well involved with his family, had a great support system. With this, complete this sentence, Fitima, my father's life and experience will not be forgotten because...
My life, father, and experience will not be forgotten because my dad was a community hero. Not just my hero, but he was everyone's hero. He was very unique. He had a lot of accolades from just being the first African-American male to receive the first continuation scholarship to Duke University. He also owned one of the largest martial arts schools in Durham, North Carolina, where we produced over 400 black belts. He also was a police officer for the Durham County Police Department. He was also a firefighter. So my dad was really, really big on helping expand the community. He had a really, really great heart. And his life mattered because so many people were impacted by him, not just me as his daughter, but strangers and kids that came through the programs, people that met my dad through just business meetings and philosophy and how he spoke life into people. So I want people to understand that my dad was just not my dad. He was really my hero, and he was a hero to a lot of people.
Again, this is DajaStar Media. I'm Daja, and thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing this pass on the floor.
Yes. Of course. Thank you for having us, and we're hoping that, with the determination of Ms. Miller, that we can get this bill passed, because like we stated during the interview, we all are going to be in this position at some point. We all are going to become senior, hopefully, and we all hope to be treated fairly.
That's right.
100%. That's all we want.